Who are the fastest characters in Jujutsu Kaisen? I got asked for my top 10, so we're going to go over that and a bunch of other questions from you guys. And spoiler warning for my anime onlys out there, we will be getting into manga territory. Alrighty, y'all. So to kick off this video, we've got 4 questions from Kashimo Low Diffs Utah, including the top 10 fastest there. And if you've been following the channel for a while, you're going to know what this is about. There's basically kind of this running thing now of Kashimo Low Diffs Utah or Utah Low Diffs Kashimo. It took on a life of its own in the Discord as well. So most recently, I had somebody donate for me to reiterate how Akotsu beats Kashimo. So now we have the rebuttal here saying Kashimo Low Diffs Utah. So, I mean, you guys know my stance on it at this point. I do think Akotsu would beat Kashimo if both were at their peak. But I will say, you know what? Under certain circumstances, sure, Kashimo gets him. But the other questions we have today, he wanted me to point out some of my highlights from the Discord since we made a Discord recently. And I would just say it's been so fun to kind of have a more active community talking all of the time, which is possible with Discord, right? I'm much more of a lurker, so I know a lot of people probably think I'm not in there that much, but I actually am in there a lot. I'm just not participating actively by chatting a lot. But I do like to go in there and just see what people are up to, see what people are talking about. The memes have been fantastic, but my favorite thing is maybe the custom curse techniques. We made a forum in Discord just for that, so everybody's posting their ideas for custom domains and curse techniques. That's definitely one of my favorites. And then just leaks night in the Discord has been really fun. Just getting to experience the leaks in real time with everybody and chat along there. Those are my highlights for sure. And then for my best Discord debates so far, I haven't participated in any, but I have caught a few people really going in on their stance here. One of them was referenced in a previous video about the Demon Slayer scaling. Now, I wasn't actually there for that one, but after I got that donation, I went back and checked. And it's fun because some of the debates aren't really like two people who vehemently disagree. Sometimes it's just somebody who's taken a stance and they want to be disproved, but they can't. Like, it's just kind of like in the spirit of the debate. So there's been some interesting ones there. The most recent one I saw that had a lot of traction where people were going back and forth was on the 6 eyes and limitless. If you actually needed the 6 eyes to use the limitless at all, like not just do you need the 6 eyes to use it well, but do you need them to use it at all? So people were really, feeling passionate about that one. But yeah, there's some great ones. And so now let's get to the question of the hour, my top 10 fastest in JJK. All right, so for my top 10 fastest characters in JJK, let me just give the quick disclaimer. Your boy's not a power scaler. I'm not going through chronicling each feat and, ranking them against one another. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. And also for that reason, I'm going to be grouping them in groups. So I won't be giving a definitive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It'll be more like, here's the top 3 fastest in my opinion. Rank them however, they're probably interchangeable, so on and so forth, right? So at the top of that pyramid, we definitely got Gojo Sukuna. Gun to my head, probably I would say Gojo's a little bit faster, but it's hard to say, especially with what's going on in the recent chapters. But it's so hard to quantify because Sukuna's like diminished, right? But so Gojo Sukuna at the top. The next tier down, I've got Curse Technique Kashimo, Toji, and Maki. Now, I'm kind of giving Toji a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here because we didn't get to truly see him at his prime, but we're seeing Maki at her prime, and she's doing some impressive things, fully dodging the world-cutting slash, which even Curse Technique Kashimo couldn't fully do. So I would honestly probably put the Heavenly Restricted users at full max potential, maybe even over Curse Technique Kashimo, but it's just so hard to say, right? So we're going to group those 3 together in the middle. Then on the really bottom edge of that, maybe even kind of with them, would be Cursed Naoya. Then below that, we have Naobito. And then to round out the bottom 3, I've got Jogo, Yuji, and Akotsu. Jogo was just mentioned to be the fastest of the disaster curses and was compared to Naobito, so he's obviously really fast. And then Yuji is the hardest one because he's obviously super fast with his enhanced physical prowess, if you will, that is very similar to a heavenly restriction. So if we come to find out that he does have a heavenly restriction and maybe he even reaches his full potential in that regard, then we throw Yuji up at the top with everybody else. But for now, he's probably around 8th, maybe 8th, 9th. And then Ikotsu is rounding out the bottom just because, like, boy is fast. You know, he was keeping up with Yuji back during the very end of Shibuya when he was even holding a sword, you know. So that would be my top 10, again, in no particular order, but that's what I got for you. While we're on the subject of Kashimo, I got this question from Belted on what if Kashimo fought alongside Gojo against Sukuna. So, you know, we've talked about this before, and, you know, the story in JJK shows us this numerous times that Gojo is strongest alone. So I don't really think Kashimo makes a difference. Like, I think Sukuna can just take him out really quickly and then go back to focusing on Gojo. Plus, Gojo, you know, doesn't want to have to worry about protecting other people in the fight. That's why he's strongest alone. And, you know, his Hollow Purple that he did at the end of the Sukuna fight would have killed anyone else that was there. The interesting caveat is that Gojo probably doesn't care what happens to Kashimo. So from Gojo's point of view, it's probably no skin off his back if Kashimo wants to try to get in some sneak attacks while he's distracting Sukuna. But ultimately, I don't think it makes a difference because, again, Sukuna can just take out Kashimo real quick and then go back to focusing on Gojo. Next up, we got this question from Zachariah on, is Yuji to blame for Megami's body getting taken over? And man, yes and no, I guess. Like, I personally wouldn't put the onus of that on Yuji. Like, I don't think it's his fault, but he obviously has some culpability in it, right? Because, I mean, we could go all the way back to if he'd never eaten the finger, then none of this would have happened, at least not in the way that it did. And then, you know, if he didn't make the binding vow to bring himself back to life, then this never would have happened because Sukuna wouldn't have gotten the Enchain opportunity, right? But ultimately, I don't think it's Yuji's fault. You know, there's more at play here than just Yuji, but he certainly has a role to play. So again, personally, I wouldn't put the blame on him, but it's really hard to kind of put the blame on any one person. You know, no snowflake in the avalanche feels responsible. Next, we got this question from Michael on, do I think Kusakabe has a domain expansion? And no, I don't. So this could be wrong if Kusakabe has been secretly hiding a curse technique this whole time, which is possible. But from what we know, he doesn't have a curse technique, which would mean he doesn't have a domain expansion. So for now, I don't think he does. And then finally, to round out this video, y'all, I've got this question from Montana who asks, will we ever see a perfect Black Flash, which he's classifying as a strike with 0 delay for the Cursed Energy application? And unfortunately, no, just because that's not how Black Flash works. So if there was literally 0 delay in the Cursed Energy application, then that means just the strike itself would be imbued with Cursed Energy, right? And that's what sorcerers do just for like their normal attacks. They're strengthening it with Cursed Energy. So for whatever reason, Black Flash specifically is that millionth of a second delay. Now, why that is, I don't know, but there's really no such thing as a perfect Black Flash, at least not that we've seen in the story so far. Just if you're able to do the Black Flash at all, that's it. You know, it's kind of an all or nothing thing. I don't think there's a gradient of Black Flash. If you're a millionth of a second too late, it's not going to work. And I think if you're a millionth of a second too early, it would similarly not work. So it's not about being like as early as possible, as it were. It's about specifically hitting that millionth of a second mark. And for anyone else that's confused about Black Flashes or anything, I did do a video a while back now explaining them in depth. So check that out, and probably the easiest place to find that's going to be YouTube. And then for your second question here about Yuji's domain and potentially dealing with Black Flashes, it does seem more and more likely that Yuji has a curse technique in blood manipulation and maybe something else for all we know, which would mean he could have a domain expansion. So if we do get to see that, I definitely could see it lending itself to a more brawler aesthetic, you know, since Yuji likes to get in there and fight. But that being said, I wouldn't necessarily see it having anything to do with Black Flash itself, since that's not a curse technique. But I could certainly see him just landing a bunch of them in his domain for sure. And that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.